Good and bad bass. James in Ontario, Canada writes to me and says, "Hey Paul, I'm very new to the audiophile world." Well, welcome James, and would like to reach my virtual handout to you from Ontario, Canada. There you go. I've always enjoyed good, clean music, but have only recently started to learn to dive into a song and listen to it as a storybook. I like that. Listening to each page unfold and pick out the interesting parts of all the individual instruments telling their stories. James, you're a poet, man. That's like literature kind of stuff. I only recently took your advice and added a stereo pair of REL T0 MK3 subwoofers to my tiny house symphony. Well, thanks for taking the advice. Hope it worked out. Let's see what happened here. My question is fairly simple, but the answer has been elusive. How and what do you listen for when learning to appreciate the lower ends of the musical spectrum? The problem I'm experiencing is that I started with REL subs, which are really good quality, and now I don't have a reference point as to what the difference between good and bad bass is. Thanks again for all you do and freely giving your knowledge and experience. Your calm demeanor is very welcomed. Why, thank you, sir. All right, so yeah, this is a problem. This is one of the reasons why I put together the Audiophile's Guide, but more important, and this here, by the way, we're in the room where our guy Michael puts these guides into a package. This one's going out to Madeline Hill. Okay, in Australia. There you go. And who's this going to? This one is going to Freddie DeWitt in Belgium. Wow, cool. Anyway, these books. This is my book on how to set everything up. But most important, the disc itself. Why? James brings up a good problem. How do you know what's right? How do you know when you get it perfect, when it's wrong? Because you don't have a baseline. So it's really critical to have a baseline. Now for years, I published, still do, you can go to Google and put in Paul's Picks, and you'll get a big list, there's a couple of them, of reference audio tracks. The Nora Jones, the Blind Pilot, and tracks that I found to be really fun to listen to in the stereo. Good recordings, they do great, but they are not references. And here's what I mean by that. Even though they sound good on my system, if you take one of those discs or two or three of those discs and you use that as your baseline, so I'm going to take Nora Jones, Get Away From Me, Come to Me, come away with me, get away from me. It's old Nora, Come Away With Me. It's a good recording. Let's say I use that as my baseline and I set my stereo system up so that old Nora just sounds great. And there she is, and she's, it's just everything's perfect. Now the next track I put on, maybe doesn't sound right. How do you know that Nora and her recording wasn't at fault and you changed your system around to accommodate those faults? Now, when you put on a good recording, it doesn't sound right. Or when you play bass, maybe the bass is too much. Well, maybe Nora Jones' record didn't have proper bass, and so you cranked it up to make Nora sound right. But you get the point, right? You have to have a reference, a baseline from which you can trust, and that once you get that right, then everything else can be assumed to be, that's not a great recording, that is correct. When I hear the bass, I know it's right. So in the book, The Audiophile's Guide, I give you step-by-step instructions how to do all this. But again, what's critical is this disc. Because this disc, we worked really hard to come up with reference material, stuff that you can trust, perfectly recorded. And I mean, after what, 45, 50 years of doing this, we know how to do something like that. So that's why here's a perfect track to get the center image correct. You don't even have to like the music, but if you get that correct, now you have a bass line you can trust. There's a bass track in there. The bass track has been specially prepared so that every single frequency is at the same proper level for that instrument. And once you get that right, then everything else is right. So that's what you need, James. And I'm not just trying to sell you, well, yeah, sure I am. But the whole idea here is, and I don't care if you buy the book or not, but do get a copy from Octave Records. Get a copy of the reference music disc, because this is your baseline. This is what you put everything in your system to work at getting right. And when you get that right, you got it right. It's as simple as that. Okay? And you can get those psaudio.com, go to octaverecords.com, and just pick a copy up. You can download it. Anyway, have fun. Good luck with your system. Thanks.